right? So when you see people in the news who have been arrested for having types of inappropriate photographs, we'll say, on devices, that's the kind of stuff that can be pushed.
What do you mean pushed? You can put it on their computer?
Or on their cell phone, on any device that they have. In fact, I helped put together courseware so that we can collect and even push stuff onto people's video gaming consoles.
What? Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you want to support the show in a different way, you can go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. All right, let's see here. We've got Lisa Marie. How are you doing, Lisa Marie?
I am fantabulous. Thank you, Marv, and hi, Foogle fam.
So I believe I've seen you in chat before. I was asking what...
Yes, sir.
So just explain what you're going to talk about here.
Well, so first, if you don't mind, the last person who was talking, there's actually a couple channels, and I follow a lot of the flight paths. And one thing for Southern Alabama, you have Fort Rucker there. Fort Rucker is where we train pilots. So if you're seeing lots of military aviation in and around the state of Alabama, those are usually trainer birds. However, the other flight path that he showed that looked like a daisy, that's actually what I am going to talk about. So it's like the perfect lead-in. So what my job was for my whole military career, crypto, if you think about it, I essentially had the same job as that guy on the run named Ed, who likes the snow and dens. So it was about collection and things like that, right? And anybody who's watched Tucker Carlson, especially over the last week or two, knows that there's things that we should be concerned about from these alphabet soup agencies, if you will. There is, quick little short backstory, right? When you go through training, they give you training on certain types of like rules and regulations. One of them is UCIT 18. And UCIT 18 is where we tell people, okay, you're not supposed to collect data or information on American persons, right? Citizens, contractors, subcontractors of, the great US of A. And so it kind of gets ingrained in you, right? We're following rules and we don't do bad stuff to good people. And I was, in the land of Afghans. And I noticed, because I was working near a base, that I was collecting data that was from personnel that wore the same matching outfit as me. And so I started kind of going through my system and deleting those logs. And after about a week, I got a call from mainland USA, from alphabet soup agencies, and they started hooting and hollering. And they were like, you cannot delete anything. That's not your place. That's not your position. Your position is to collect and via satellite relocate stuff back to us so we can analyze and we can do all of these other things. And right, my knee-jerk reaction is, right, we defend freedom and, democracy, and we're trying to be the good guys. Why would I want any of this? And they know ifs, ands, or buts about it. There was no discussion. I was looking at time at Leavenworth. If I continued to remove data collection of U.S. persons, right? So that's the first thing. So I've known for well over a decade that we're taking American stuff and we're still sifting through it. Now, it's not just that we can take stuff, right? We have had the capability for quite a fair amount of time in order to push stuff, right? So when you see people in the news who have been arrested for having types of inappropriate photographs, we'll say, on devices, that's the kind of stuff that can be pushed.
What do you mean pushed? You can put it on their computer?
Or on their cell phone, on any device that they have. In fact, I helped put together courseware so that we can collect and even push stuff onto people's video gaming consoles.
What?
Yeah. So like if you see someone who was arrested with pictures of children in lewd or lascivious positions, right? There is no guarantee that that was actually organic to that person's device or possession. We can push things out. We have far more capability than what people are already aware of. So if you didn't believe in VPNs or EMP shields or anything like that, let me assure you that any form of security that you can get is useful. And here's why I really want to emphasize this now, especially after that last caller, that beautiful little flight pattern that looked like a daisy, because that gear that I'm talking about is airborne. So when they've been doing this review in the county of Maricopa recently, we've been tracking flights that have aircraft with that same technological capability running similar patterns over that site that stopped when the site temporarily shut down for graduations and whatnot. I have family that's in Phoenix, plus there's a couple other channels and a couple other areas where you can go and dig into some of this further. There's a really great one on the YouTube's called Monkeyworks, WERX. He's also another veteran, and we use FlightAware, we use Flight Radar 24, we use multiple different sites as well as like boots on the ground people checking this stuff. But data is not secure. So if you're thinking incognito mode helps you with things, if you're thinking, nobody's going to spy on me, it doesn't matter, that's not accurate. And you need to be super concerned because they're talking about, right, censoring even people's SMS messages, amongst like even family members, if what you're saying is something that they want to block, right? This is where EMP shields, VPNs are an absolute necessity at this point. So that's that first thing.
So, okay. Just while we're still on,
yes, sir.
That gave me butterflies hearing about the Daisy plane here, but also the fact. What did you think about do you know the story about Sunspot Observatory? Without getting any more into like
which one is that?
Sunspot Observatory.
I don't know what that location is. I know that there's a lot of.
Sunspot Observatory was shut down along with 6 others that they don't talk about, and they said it was because of that thing we were just talking about that they could push into people's systems. The Blackhawks came in.
Yep.
Blackhawks came in and they went to the whole neighborhood. They evacuated. And then the end story was that it was because he was running a network of that stuff on his thing. And everybody goes, oh, we all hate that. So, case closed. He was doing that stuff. I could see that as being one of the things. This is the other thing, right? And you can do research. I don't use the Googles at all. I've learned to work outside of them. There's many other platforms you can use, but you can do the research. These towers, they have bidirectional and omnidirectional towers for like cell phones, as well as any of these observatories, right? Especially like the Lucifer Observatory, which works for the Vatican. They have so much radiation that is put off of them. It is literally as harmful as being in that place in the 80s in the former Soviet Republic when you had a nuclear meltdown. It is horrendous. And that stuff will start popping up far more rapidly. I mean, like on an exponential level that you won't be able to get away from it. And what's crazy is, like, I see this all over northern Utah, but I've seen it just about everywhere stateside, is they're putting up new cell phone towers and they're disguising them to look like, like fake trees, Christmas trees or whatever. They're putting them on elementary school playgrounds. Right? We've actually covered stories,
especially if they're
where they sue and remove them. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, but some observatories, there was one that was decommissioned last year, and that one had to do with radiation, and that wasn't reported, but that had a lot to do with radiation. And then I would bet money that if those people had proper security on top of everything that the output was, that the fact that government and higher positioned personnel couldn't track or see what they were doing within their networks, that they would honestly want to shut it down before it had any more access to anything else.
Now, I have one more question for you. In any of your time at
Yes,
your
sir.
old job, did you ever hear anything about space and asteroids or anything like that?
I did not. So I primarily, my focus was on anything related to Russian military and Russian international relationships. But then it was also, I was trained in German and then in Pashto, and then I was learning Korean. And so they kept me all over the place. I didn't hear a lot of space stuff. However, there is something with regards to the former Soviet military that I did want to bring up, because we have talked about, and by we I mean you, what they have as far as militaristic capabilities, right? Inflatables or otherwise.
Yeah.
What we can track or what we're aware of at most is maybe 60% of what their fleets possess. Now, if you are anywhere near a military base here in the U.S., especially, when you look at like the front gates, you'll see like decommissioned planes or tanks, strikers, all sorts of vehicles, right? And those are just kind of like statues and essentially nostalgic memorabilia of wars gone by. In Russia and all of the former satellite Soviet states, those are not out of commission vehicles. All of the locals and villagers surrounding wherever those statues, we'll call them, are located, can repair and get them up and running usually within 24 hours. So from Vladivostok to Moscow, from, you know, their North Pole and everything all the way down to the Black Sea.
Do you think that we are weaker than do you think that Russia and China are stronger than people think?
1,000%. So the first story that you talked about, well, it wasn't the first, I think it was the second. You talked about with regards to the Cuban situation, and from Moscow's perspective, what it was that the U.S. was doing, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And anybody who knows a bit about Lao Tzu, the art of war, right, the best way to minimize casualties is to get your opponent to divide amongst themselves, right? And one of the things that Russia really kind of thinks the U.S. should be embarrassed about is our emotion, especially with regards to the way that we conduct ourselves on an international level. And here's a prime example, right? I was dealing with one of my Belarusian instructors, and the Pope had come to the U.S., and you had some high-ranking governmental officers who, just as the Pope was going by, like they didn't even get to shake his hand or anything, as he's going by, these older, powerful men are just crying their eyes out, right? Just this spiritual, whatever, emotions take over, and they're just crying. In Soviet Russia, that is a embarrassing and shameful act. Like, regardless, it could be, you know, your mother just passed away, or, you know, your whole village was wiped out. You don't show emotion. And so they look at Americans as very emotional people. The emotions will take over and run us wild, right? When the Russian leader was asked about Navalny and what he's doing to, you know, this journalist or whatever, and he turned around and said, well, look at what you guys did with all of the people that were just trying to use their constitutional right to, you know, voice their discontent with the current situation on the day after the 5th of January. And that's how they spin things, is they look at us as weak for being emotional. And if you can cause contention in America betwixt various citizens of, you know, varying backgrounds, then we will fight ourselves, which weakens us and makes us just prime crop for harvesting.
Conquer and divide.
And that's
divide
China
and conquer.
China looks at us the same way. And so if they can team up together, I mean, Cuba has been one of Russia's allies since before the Cuban Missile Crisis. right? So we're setting ourselves up for failure by making policies and drafting legislation and looking at various political ideology based on emotion. Emotion should be completely tertiary in the ideals of the ways that we should govern ourselves. And that's where it becomes problematic. So what they're doing is they're giving candy
so we
to the
change
baby
laws.
and going,
we're
here.
offended, so we change laws.
Yep.
Everything is that
Exactly.
right now. Everything. I can only imagine what
1,000%, sir.
Yeah, I mean, look at our recruiting videos, for God's sakes. We're pandering in our recruiting videos for the military. So
it's shameful. I was actually on the recruiting videos on their website for almost 12 years, and it was like one of the most embarrassing things because I had graduated basic, and I was like, we're all warriors now. My family used to laugh at me, and now I'm like, don't look at any advertisement whatsoever, because they tell you when you go to basic training, you're not black, you're not white, you're not yellow, you're not a girl, you're not a boy, you're not rich, you're not poor, you're not whatever. You're a soldier. You bleed red, white, and blue. You are a human being that's a soldier, and that's it. And that's the bottom line. Like, I'm a tall girl, so I'm a little over 5'10". And so in basic training, when we would do, like rough and tumble, like pugils and stuff, most of the females are around like 5'4" to 5'6". So I would get paired up with dudes because it doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter where you came from. You're part of the group. And that's it. And so it's utterly shameful and embarrassing. And so I watched the advertisements for the recruitment videos for the Russian military, and I can translate it like as it's happening. And right, ours we're talking about, and I've always felt like I was a defender of, free speech and freedom and service or whatever. And then you listen to the Russian one, and he says, along our borders, there's the enemy. The enemy creeps at you every single night. But the soul of this nation, the heart of our people, is the heart that beats in you. You are the one who keeps those borders strong. You are the one who brings everything to light, right? Those are two completely different emotions that, right? Like, I'm not even pro anything but pro-American. I love this nation, even if I, disagree with some people who are in charge of it at times. But I get chills when I listen to, recruitment ads like that, because that's the stuff I wanted. I gave a $350,000 annual income to join the Army and make $17,000. And it was like, this is still what I believe. I have zero regrets. This is what I mean to do. And to see it turned into this weak, fuzzy, friendly, like when I was, on deployment and they changed our rules of engagement, they said, okay, well, if you get into a fender bender with a local, we want everyone in the convoy to dismount and take off their armor, and then we're going to have you guys do paperwork so that we can help reimburse them for any vehicle. You know what happened? By 300%, that increased the vehicle-borne IEDs that we would come across, because they knew that everybody was going to dismount and remove their armor. Okay? You can't win a war by shooting, chocolate chip cookies and rainbows. That's not how that happens. Life and the history of the world is conquest and conquer. So, all of the peace, love, and happiness that, they want me to shoot out the end of my M4, let me just tell you, that's not armor piercing, and that's useless. So good call, dummy.
Oh my gosh. Hey, you have the background, you have the qualifications. Can I have you back on?
Please, anytime.
All right. Well, this was a truly there's very, I love every call, but there's very few that I like. I'm like sitting here like, forget the show. I wanted to talk to you. Lisa Marie, thank you so much. We are out of time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Again, your specialty was dealing with, translating that Russian stuff and through and cryptology or whatever it was. This was so fascinating. Thank you so much for the call. You scared me and you made me laugh in the same call. So thank you. Please,
thank you.
Please call in again. Okay. I would love to have you on again.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Lisa Marie. Oh my goodness. Dex, man.
Wow, that was great.
We have had the best callers lately. Just like blowing my mind. And there are so many more, just like Lisa. I just want to remind you guys that EMP is still doing their sale. I don't know when they're going to end this one. We are still waiting to hear back. But right now, it's an additional $20 off on top of the actual $50 off that we are grandfathered in as their second affiliate. Again, not everybody can offer you that. We actually always give you a $50 off coupon when you go get one. They are actually offering you additional $20 to $50 depending on how many devices you get off on top of our sale. So that's marfooglenews.com/EMP for a actual device that can protect you against EMPs, all three phases, E1, E2, and E3, and CMEs and solar flares. You can hook different devices up to your generator, your house, your motorcycle, your ham radio, pretty much anything that they make a device for it. Again, it's 100% American made and a veteran-owned business, and you are supporting the show. A commission goes to us every time you purchase, and you get a giant discount. I see it as a win-win every time.
Feed the haters to the alligators. Your way or the highway, see you later. B.O.D. is the homie and Mr. Vader. If it wasn't for you, I would never made it. Whole city's covered by the cremated. Now they listen to what we were saying. Doesn't matter if the manufacturer or created. But now